Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
A special Stillman and Company live from San Francisco. That's right. I am already here ahead of the Super Bowl. Sam Darnold is in the Super Bowl. The great Mike Vrabel is in the Super Bowl. This has got to be the Jared Stillman Super Bowl. And welcome to the special edition of Stillman and Company. Again, this will be our last show until we are here in San Francisco, which we will remain. But this will be our last show probably until next weekend. So enjoy it while you have it. Maybe I'll do one tomorrow morning, but I will be out of pocket for this upcoming week. So I'll miss the press conference and the coordinator hire, and that is what it is. Now, let's first, because a lot of people are asking about TDG. A lot of people are saying, will TDG show up tonight? TDG better get his ass in here into the chat. We do have a response from TDG. First, as we welcome people in, let's talk about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. They are proud supporters of the Nashville Predators, the Vanderbilt Commodores, and the Tennessee Volunteers. They've been in business since 1990. They are family-owned and operated. With 100% satisfaction, if happy, you'll be, the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work performed, they will make it right. Learn more at happyhiller.com. Professional, experienced, trustworthy technicians that come into your home and leave it clean and better than they found it. And I bet a lot of you wish you had taken me up. I've said this for years. The offer that Hiller had for years about the whole home generators, I bet you wish you had that today. So, again, get with Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And we hope that everybody, by the way, stays safe in these storms. Even my family had to go into a hotel today because they got, little baby, no power, no heat. So, and I know that not everybody can do that. So, we'll be keeping that one. All right. The Super Bowl matchup is set. Super Bowl 60 here in San Francisco will feature the New England Patriots and the great Mike Vrabel and the Seattle Seahawks and Sam Darnold. We start with our immediate reaction to the NFC Championship game. And we do have TDG's response, his official response, him saying, I am a man of my word. Sam Fool's Gold Darnold is no more. He was a baller tonight. That comes from a man in TDG whom I invited TDG to come out to the draft party. He said he was going to come out to the draft party. He didn't come out to the draft party. I've never met TDG, but he's like a brother to me. He has been riding with me through thick and thin. And he was the one from the very beginning. He wanted Shedeur Sanders. He won't admit it now. He wanted Shedeur Sanders. And then when it became obvious that they were going to take Cam Ward, he was all aboard the Cam Ward train. And I kept saying, no. You people, you need Sam Darnold. You should want Sam Darnold. That's what you need to do. And TDG was the leader of the anti-Darnold club. And again, he today saying, Sam Fool's Gold Darnold is no more. And let me say this. I am very, very excited about Sam Darnold making it to the Super Bowl. I told everybody. I told you people. I told the Titans. I told the media. I said, if Sam Darnold wins the Super Bowl, I am going to be insufferable. Because I have been pumping the Sam Darnold tires to the Tennessee Titans since before it was even really a possibility. And when Minnesota didn't tag him, I remember going to the Super Bowl last year and having Albert Breer say, they'd really like to get to that Baker Mayfield $30 million a year number. And I'm like, well, good fucking luck to them, Minnesota, $30 million a year. And we knew that Darnold was going to be a free agent. I kept saying you have to do it. Mike Borgonzi takes the job. He talks up Alex Smith. I'm like, this is your Alex Smith. Let me say this. While I was doing all that chest thumping about Sam Darnold over the off season and when they didn't sign him and how depressed I was. And then when I said they shouldn't have drafted Cam and we found out what the offer was from the Giants, and then Cam stunk it up in training camp. And then, I was off the air there for a little bit. And then we played the games and Cam was terrible and Cam's team was bad and Sam Darnold was awesome and Sam Darnold's team was good. And as all that was going on, I never thought Seattle was going to make it to the Super Bowl. Let me be incredibly clear with that. I did not think Seattle was going to the Super Bowl when they signed Sam Darnold. I thought they were going to be better with Sam Darnold than they were with Geno Smith. I didn't think they were going to the fucking Super Bowl. So that's first thing. Before I get going and crazy about how I told you so, which I did, I feel like a man on the Maury Povich show who was not cheating on his wife, who agreed to take the lie detector test, and the lie detector test has come back saying that I was telling the truth, and after I got booed when I walked out on the stage, I can now say, I told you, I told you, I told you. And boy, that did feel good to get off my chest. Here's the thing about the game tonight. When it comes to great players, and I've never considered Sam Darnold a great quarterback. I've considered Sam Darnold a very good quarterback. I said this when they drafted Cam, because what happened was everybody fell in love with the idea of the unknown. The Jared, he could be Mahomes. Jared, he could be Josh Allen. Jared, he could be Jaden Daniels. Jared, he could be Lamar Jackson. And we know, with all due respect to Sam Darnold, and Sam Darnold played the game of his life tonight. Sam Darnold's not Josh Allen. Sam Darnold's not Mahomes. Sam Darnold may win a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl last year. Now, he's better than Jalen Hurts, which, by the way, I argued last year after the Super Bowl when Jalen Hurts won it. I said, guys, Jalen Hurts has the best team. He has the best team. He has the number one defense. He's got 2 tackles. He's got 2 receivers. He's got the best running back in football. He's got the head coach calling the offense. He's got Vic Fangio on defense. And when those things weren't the same, Jalen wasn't as good. Sam Darnold doesn't have those things. Now, Seattle's good, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is a dog. But he doesn't have what Jalen Hurts has. And I said last year, Sam Darnold's better than Jalen Hurts. And everybody said, I love TD with all my heart. But I have a text from TD from a couple years ago where TD texted me. And again, I love him. And this was how most people felt at the time. But he texted me and he said, you cannot say Sam Darnold is good and that Tua and Kyler Murray suck. As your friend, this is what TD said, I'm telling you, don't say this again. And I did kind of laugh at that. Now, the game itself. I was thinking that Seattle was going to control the game. I thought Sam was going to make a couple of big plays. But I really thought at the end of the day that this was going to be about the Seattle Seahawks defense. And that Seattle Seahawks defense that I thought was great for most of the season. They have guys just flying to the ball. E-Man Worry, number 3. I watch him play. I think to myself, oh my God, the Titans could have picked him. And in fact, Seattle picked him with the pick that the Titans traded to Seattle so that they could take Femi Oladejo and Kevin Winston, who's always hurt. And so E-Man Worry, he's out there making plays. DeMarcus Lawrence still has a little juice in the tank. Boye Mafe and those boys up front, they're good. Ernest Jones. I mean, Rand Carthon did a lot of stupid things as general manager of the Titans. Ernest Jones was not one of them. I didn't really know much about Ernest Jones when he was picked up by the Titans. And Ernest Jones was good for the Titans. And then Ernest Jones left. And I didn't, they traded him and they certainly hadn't replaced him. But I watched Seattle play. Ernest Jones is a very good player. So that's a very good defense. And I was thinking Seattle's defense was going to make enough plays to where Seattle would probably win somewhat comfortably. Seattle's defense was good at times today. But the idea of Seattle's defense carrying the quarterback, Matthew Stafford was not going to let that happen. And right after halftime, when Seattle recovered the muff punt and Darnold threw a touchdown pass, and then immediately Stafford goes right down the field, I knew this is going to be a quarterback duel. This is going to be one of those games where it's a duel in the Old West. It's mano a mano. Granted, it's usually Mahomes versus Allen or Manning versus Brady. Every now and then you'll get a guy like a Deshaun Watson when he was with the Texans that would get into a great shootout with a really good quarterback, and it's a back and forth kind of game. You don't usually have the Jared Goffs or the Dak Prescotts or the Jimmy Garoppolos or the Ryan Tannehills. You usually don't have them get into those games with Aaron Rodgers and it becomes shot for shot. And at this point, that's what Matthew Stafford is. Because to me, the two best quarterbacks in the game right now are Matthew Stafford, who's going to win the league MVP, and Josh Allen, who's the reigning league MVP. And then for this year, I'd have Drake May third, although Drake May has not done much in these playoffs. We'll get to Drake May and the Patriots here in just a second. And I was sitting there, I'm not going to lie. I was sitting there in the third quarter, and Sam was playing great. But I thought to myself, I don't know if Sam Darnold can win a duel with Matthew Stafford. You know, again, we're talking about Matthew Stafford. This is Stafford, McVay, Nakua. And to the credit of Stafford and to the credit of the Rams, they did not go away. I mean, every time I felt like Seattle was going to pull away, the Rams, Nakua would make a play, Devontae would make a play, Stafford would make a play, and the Rams are right back, and the pressure is right back on Sam Darnold. Number 27, Tyreek Woolen. This dipshit. I mean, I could not believe what I saw. I would have sent his ass to the locker room if I was the coach. You get a third down stop. You're up by 11 points in the NFC Championship game in the fourth quarter. And you get a taunting penalty? And I don't even care about the fact that he gave up the touchdown on the next play. You know, that to me, I'd have sent him to the locker. That would have never happened if I was the coach, because he'd have been sent to the locker room, so it wouldn't have mattered. And when that opening occurred, I thought, oh, God. Because now Stafford goes and scores a touchdown. It's a 4-point game, and we're in the fourth quarter. And so now I know Darnold's going to have to answer the bell. And Sam Darnold, even better than I thought he could, answered the bell. And I said this yesterday on Sirius. If you're one of these people who thinks, you know, I really listened to Stillman on the radio at the time, and when he was talking about Sam Darnold, I had Sam Darnold seeing ghosts in my head. I had Sam Darnold in Minnesota on Sunday Night Football, the last game of the year against Detroit. I had that in my head. I had that playoff game last year against the Rams in my head. I had those 4 interceptions he threw earlier in the year against the Rams. I had that in my head. The fact that he played well in that overtime Thursday night game, that was pure luck. I had that in my head. You know what? Stillman might be onto something here. He might have been right about Sam Darnold. He's not right about a lot, but he might have been right about Sam Darnold. I think now you got to say Sam Darnold is a legitimate high-end NFL quarterback. This was the game where his team needed him. And I thought Kenneth Walker ran the ball great today. And then I looked at the stats and I saw Kenneth Walker had something like 60 yards. I was actually shocked. I thought Kenneth Walker easily had 100 yards the way he was playing today. Now, Jackson Smith-Njigba, that fucking dude is awesome. I mean, I know I talk about the fact that JSN was on the team last year and the Seahawks didn't make the playoffs last year. And so all of a sudden, Sam Darnold goes to the Seahawks. Sam Darnold starts winning. You people start making the excuse, well, he has JSN. And I was saying, no. You guys last year said, well, he has Justin Jefferson. He's not really that good. Now he goes to a new team and JSN's all of a sudden Jerry Rice. I am not saying anything to take away from Sam Darnold. You know I would never do that. But Jackson Smith-Njigba, this guy plays like Jerry Rice. That's who he plays like. Jerry Rice. He just gets open just so beautifully. And that one-handed catch he had on the sideline today, that thing was incredible. He caught that like a first baseman, you know, like with his mitt, just popped the ball right in his hands, stayed in bounds. He had the big grab over the middle. He had the touchdown. I mean, I thought Jackson Smith-Njigba, I thought he was incredible. I think he is incredible. And I think Clint Kubiak has done a great job when it comes to calling the plays of setting Sam Darnold up for success, where Sam knows, hey, my number one guy is going to be JSN. My deep threat, my big play guy, that's going to be Rashid Shaheed. And then if it's not there, don't be afraid to check it down to the backs. So I thought today they were awesome. I thought Sam Darnold won a game that even me, I was not sure he was capable of winning. I also, and I don't want to make a prediction for the Super Bowl yet, I'll be out there in San Francisco. I thought the NFC Championship game was the Super Bowl. I think over the course of this season in the NFL, the Rams and the Seahawks have been the two best teams all year. And the fact that they played right down to the wire in the first game, they went to overtime in the second game, and it was a 4-point game at the very, very end in a winner-take-all rubber match for the NFC title. I think that was the Super Bowl. And I'm not making any predictions, but I think Seattle will be favored. I think Seattle should be favored for the Super Bowl. And Seattle, they've been tough all year. They have been tough. And I thought they were outside of 27 today, Tariq Woolen. I thought they were very tough, which I thought was great. Trent says, Jared, don't make us listen to 102.5. Well, 75% of you don't listen in the afternoons anymore. So, and to the other 25%, good for you. But year over year, 75% of you are not listening to that station anymore. But that's their business, not mine. Literally, that's their business, not mine. I will say, if you're somebody that thought that Sam Darnold wasn't good, and if you're somebody that thought, hey, Cam Ward can be Mahomes, I understand why you felt that way. But I'll say this. You're not the only person Sam Darnold has proven wrong. Sam Darnold proved to the people in New York that didn't believe in him. And we had Jake Assman on the show earlier this week, and he said Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh, that Robert Saleh, they got there and they wanted to move off of Sam Darnold. Woody Johnson, the owner, wanted to move off of Sam Darnold. Christopher Johnson, who ran the team while Woody was Trump's ambassador to the UK, they were ready to move on from Sam Darnold. He goes to Carolina. He has 1 year there. Matt Rule, the coach, he benches him. David Tepper, the owner, he demands they get Baker Mayfield. He wasn't the backup to Baker. He was the third stringer to Baker. And then at the end of the year, once Rule had been fired and Tepper got out of it, and they had traded away Christian McCaffrey, and their season was lost, Sam Darnold went 4-2. And I saw enough to say, I think there's something there. Gentry Estes and I said, we watched a couple of those games, and Gentry really watched him, and he was like, he's pretty good. I'm like, I agree. And I ran into Sam at the Super Bowl, and I said to Sam, we talked, we have a mutual friend, and we talked for a little bit, and I said, I don't know if people tell you this, but you played great at the end of this season. And Sam Darnold did not get an opportunity that offseason. I remember where I was. I was at a hotel in Mexico City. It's very random. For a bachelor party. I was at a hotel in Mexico City when Sam Darnold signed a 1-year, $3 million contract with the 49ers, and I could not believe it. And the guy I was most disappointed in was Arthur Smith. Because, they thought Desmond Ridder was going to be their guy, but let's find somebody to be a backup option. And so that year, Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, Atlanta, they said, no, thank you, Sam Darnold, we're good with Desmond Ridder. How'd that work out? Washington, now I know they had Jaden Daniels, and that's great. But Washington said, no, we're good with Sam Howell. The Saints paid a bunch of money for Derek Carr. All these teams said, we don't want Sam Darnold. Then Sam Darnold signs a bridge contract, a 1 year, I think it was $10 million contract in Minnesota. They draft J.J. McCarthy because they didn't know if J.J. McCarthy was going to be there or not. So you have to sign a guy in case your guy's not there. And they sign J.J. McCarthy, and J.J. gets hurt, so it's Sam's job, and they win 14 games. And I was stunned that they let a quarterback who won 14 games go into free agency. But that's what happens when the narrative is everything good in Minnesota was because of Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And everything bad was because of Sam Darnold. And that's what people believed. And I think that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, the general manager, Floyd told me that the job of the general manager is to protect the team from the coach. That's the job. He says it's not to go out and necessarily pick the players. It's that the coach is going to come to you and say, we got to do this, and you have to be the one to tell the coach no. And I don't know the power structure in Minnesota, but they had drafted JJ, and that's what happens. You draft a guy, and, well, he's our guy, and we're going to go with him no matter what. And I'm like, you just won 14 games with this guy. I love Tom Brady, and this was a mistake in the long run. I love Tom Brady. You all know that. But I watched Titans get to the AFC title game with Ryan Tannehill, and I'm like, I'm not dumping Ryan Tannehill. So things change. But Minnesota couldn't do it. They thought it was because of them. They didn't think it was because of Darnold. So Darnold wins his 14 games. They kick him to the curb, and then nobody wanted him. The Titans didn't want him. No. Cam Ward, that's our guy. The Giants didn't want him. The Browns didn't want him. I thought what was amazing was Tom Brady calling this game today. He reportedly was the one who didn't want him with the Raiders. He was the one that decided, no. Sam Darnold, let's not sign him in free agency. Let's trade a third-round pick for Geno Smith, and then let's pay Geno Smith more money. There was one team, and look at Sam Darnold's contract, because it is not a quarterback market contract. Made $37 million in cash this year. There was one team that believed in Sam Darnold. Seattle. So for everybody out there that's going to say, well, I messed up on it. It's okay. Because 99% of the NFL and 99% of the NFL media and 100% of the NFL fans all thought what you thought, which was, well, Sam Darnold won 14 games, but he's not really that good. Even I thought he was Alex Smith. I didn't think he was going to be in the Super Bowl. But here he is. And I think what you saw today, this is why I would have signed him. I wouldn't have used the number one pick on Sam Darnold. But this is why I would have signed him and traded the picks and built the team around him. And I think what you saw today, with all due respect to Cam Ward, what you saw today, in my opinion, is better than Cam Ward's ever going to be. And again, we're talking about throwing for 360 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and a conference championship game. Now, I think we'll remember Sam Darnold, even if he wins the Super Bowl. I think we'll remember Sam Darnold as a guy who was good, but never elite. Like, we won't look at him and compare him to Marino or Elway or Manning or Mahomes or Rodgers or Brady or Montana or Staubach or Johnny Unitas. Like, we'll never look at him like that. Maybe we'll look at him a little bit like a Joe Namath without the fame. Maybe we'll look at him as a guy who, again, might win a Super Bowl, might look at him like a Rich Gannon, who was a league MVP, had great numbers. But again, nobody's arguing Rich Gannon should be a Hall of Famer. And I love Rich Gannon. But you got to give Sam Darnold his due. And I think there are a lot of people out there. TDG says we still have a stud in Cam, and I stand by it. Well, you guys better figure out who's going to coach Cam, because that's an issue. And again, the first guy that said no thank you when it came to Sam Darnold, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh in New York. They said no thank you. Jonathan says Sam Darnold wasn't going to sign here. He still would have signed with Seattle. Cam is showing signs of great potential, whether you believe it or not. You know what Floyd told me potential is French for? It's French for not good enough. He's showing signs of potential. I don't know what that means. Right now, he has the lowest QBR in the NFL, and he's hurt. So, again, you guys can believe whatever you want to believe. It's the same shit during the year when I told you guys, like, hey, Sam Darnold's won 14 games in Minnesota. Oh, Jared, he sucks. Okay, go believe whatever you want to believe. I mean, it's amazing. I was talking about this on Sirius when all these people were calling in complaining about Mike McCarthy over the weekend. And I said, you know, we've turned from what Bill Parcells used to say, you are what your record says you are. We have turned away from that. And we are now, you are whatever narrative we can tell people and get them to believe. It's really amazing. Again, Robert Saleh is a 20-36 coach. Is there a chance it was all the Jets' fault? Yeah, there's a chance. Is it likely all the Jets' fault? Come on now. And again, for you people that say that Sam Darnold wasn't going to sign here, that's not how this works. Again, his rights were owned by the Vikings. The Titans could have traded. And if I was the general manager, they would have traded, and Sam Darnold would be a Tennessee Titan. TDG says, Cam is a rookie. Sam has been in the league for years. Stupid ass statement. Here's the thing, though. Sam Darnold did not bust out of his cocoon until about his 6th or 7th year in the league. I believe 2022 was the year that I started to drink the Kool-Aid on Darnold, and that would have been, what, his 5th year? And so that's his 5th year in the NFL. Well, you've got to make a decision on Cam Ward by year 3. Like at the end of year 3, you have to make the decision, and if you don't know the answer, if he's in the same spot Sam Darnold was, and you don't know the answer, then the answer is no. Because you're going to have to pay the guy $250 million. I mean, the Texans have basically said they're going to pay C.J. Stroud all that money. And I don't know if I believe if C.J. Stroud's that good. So the way I looked at it, and this is what I looked at the time, was Sam Darnold was a very high-end prospect coming out of USC. Now, he was really young, but he was a very high-end prospect. And I thought, this is, we talk about how these young quarterbacks get beat to shit unless they're Mahomes. And they go to these perfect scenarios where they've got the number 1 pick at left tackle, and they've got a Hall of Fame coach, and they've got the fastest receiver in the league, and they've got the best tight end in the NFL, and their team went to the playoffs the year before and won the division. Unless that's the scenario, usually these quarterbacks get beat up pretty bad. Well, Sam Darnold got beat up, and he got beat up in the biggest market in the league in New York City, and he was able to overcome it. That to me was, this guy's been through anything, and he's come out on the other side, and now you know he's going to make it. With Cam, here he is dealing with all that same shit. Bad coaching in year 1. We hope there will be good coaching in year 2, but I don't know if I can be certain about that. Again, I don't even know who's going to be the offensive coordinator. It might be Adam Stenovich, who's never called a play in the NFL. But maybe there's hope that one day Cam can come out of this. He's already hurt. Why would I take the guy that I can hope can come out of it when I've got the guy who already has come out of it? I could sign him and then trade the pick and build my roster up. But I digress. You can't sit here and tell me that, man, this was whoa. Chase says Jared has a picture of Sam Darnold above his bed, no doubt. Hey, Chase, you're a Saints fan. Let me ask you this. Would you rather have signed Sam Darnold in 2023, or are you happy with what you got from Derek Carr? Yeah. Shut up. Jonathan says, keep dreaming. You don't know anything about football. I'd say that's a bad day to try to argue that one, Jonathan. I'd say today is the wrong day because there were NFL teams. There were general managers. There were general managers of teams that some of you might root for who said to me, Sam Darnold's not that good, Jared. And I said, yes, he is. Now, again, I didn't think he was this good, but I didn't think he was good. And now he's in the Super Bowl. I begged the Titans. I went to the Titans. I said, you got to sign this guy. No, Jared, you don't understand. You're right. I don't understand. Unbelievable. Casey says, Sam fucking Darnold versus the great Mike Vrabel is the best case scenario this season for fans of this show. Boy, is that the truth. And I will tell you, I was rooting like hell in the AFC Championship game against the great Mike Vrabel. And I have to tell you, I will be doing Boston radio on the Monday of Super Bowl week, and you know they're going to be like, what do you think of Vrabel now, Jared? Ah! And that's fine. On one hand, I feel very vindicated with Sam Darnold. There is some self-reflection on the Vrabel front that I think I have to do. Now, before we get to the Vrabel front, I do want to talk about this game where I thought Sean Payton needed his own personal coach today because he cost them the game. I'm sitting there watching the game. I'm watching Jarrett Stidham. He throws the one bomb down the field. Peyton designs a beautiful play in the red zone to score the first touchdown at 7-0. You've got a top 10 defense and Drake May, and I love Drake May, but Drake May had not done shit in these playoffs. Didn't do shit against the Chargers. Certainly didn't do shit against the Texans. He just got lucky that the Chargers have no offensive line and that the Texans also have no offensive line, and C.J. Stroud just crapped his fucking pants. And so it's 7-0. The Patriots offense cannot get a first down. Denver is at home, one of the toughest places to play, with a left tackle with short arms going up against an all-pro, and they've got to operate on the silent count, and the pressure's mounting, and Jarrett Stidham is feeling it. And Jarrett Stidham takes off for that run, and it's 4th and 1, and I'm yelling at the TV in my hotel room. I'm like, kick it, Sean. You're going to go up 10-0. Now, I was unaware of the weather forecast in the second half. My guess is Sean Payton was aware of the weather forecast in the second half. Vrabel clearly was aware of the weather forecast because he took the air out of the ball to start the second half, which I thought was great coaching from Vrabel. And Sean Payton, I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, he's going to go for it. He's going to go for it. And I think there are certain times where you got to go for it. If that was the other game, and that was Matthew Stafford, and there wasn't a blizzard that was about to come down, and he's got Puka and Devontae on the other side, go for it. Because you're not going to beat Matthew Stafford by kicking field goals. Drake May in these playoffs has not played like Matthew Stafford. And I know those are the two finalists really for the MVP, but Drake May has not played like that. I looked at this and I thought, if I'm Sean Payton, I want to get a lead. I want to put pressure on Drake May. I want to make him throw the ball down the field. I want to let my edge rushers get it. How do you do that? You get a 2-score lead. 10-0 with a backup quarterback. You would have settled for that out of court. If somebody had come up before they kicked the ball, you'd have taken that in a heartbeat. And the crowd would have been in, and the defense would have been in, and Stidham would have been feeling it. And most importantly, the number one thing that I thought Denver had to do today was not ask Jarrett Stidham to go win them the game. And when they fucked that up, I thought, oh my God. And immediately, here come the Patriots. And now Stidham's spooked. And then Stidham makes the mistake of passing the ball backwards, which led to the only touchdown New England scored. I also thought in the second half, good game plan by Vrabel just to try to run it down their throats and control the clock. When is Vance Joseph going to learn to put a spy on Drake May? Because that was their best offense, was Drake May running the ball. Mike Vrabel has to be the luckiest coach in the history of the NFL. Now, I have said this because it's not like I thought Vrabel was a bad coach. I thought it was time for the Titans to move on from Vrabel. I certainly didn't think they should promote Rand Carthon. And I am questioning whether or not it was a good idea to move on from Vrabel. But I thought it was time to move on from Vrabel. He had pissed off the owner. He had really pissed off the fans. I don't think that Vrabel and Todd Downing and Tim Kelly would be in a Super Bowl. I certainly don't think they'd be there with Will Levis as the quarterback. But Mike Vrabel has to be the luckiest fucking coach in the history of the NFL. He gets fired from the Titans when the owner just goes totally off the reservation and hires the biggest moron to be general manager. And he gets fired from the Titans and he goes to the Patriots and he gets to work for Robert Kraft. And Robert Kraft, I talk about the general manager's job is to protect the team from the coach. Robert Kraft tells Vrabel, I want Josh McDaniels to be the offensive coordinator. If it was up to Vrabel, I think Todd Downing or Tim Kelly would be the offensive coordinator of the Patriots. But Kraft said, I'd like it to be McDaniels. He owns the team. Then they get into the season. They don't play anybody. They played Tampa on the road and beat them when we thought Tampa was good. They beat Buffalo once, and they beat Baltimore in a game in which John Harbaugh took Derrick Henry out of the game for whatever fucking reason he did that. They played nobody. They get to the playoffs. They play two teams at home that don't have offensive lines. One that has C.J. Stroud that just played a game where he turned the ball over 3 times against the Steelers. They get to the AFC Championship game. They don't have to play Josh Allen because Buffalo put Josh Allen out. And then Denver starting quarterback breaks his foot. So they get to play a backup quarterback. Then Sean Payton smells his own farts, and so he goes for it on 4th down. Stupid. Vrabel goes for it in the second half on 4th down. I thought it was a terrible spot. The referee came in on 4th down, and where he was running was short of the marker. And then they spotted the ball forward, and then CBS showed us the Skycam view, and it looked to me like Drake May was short, and they challenged it, which was the right call for Sean Payton, and they upheld it. And then this massive blizzard comes in, so this backup quarterback has no chance, and the kicker can't make a kick, and again, not to take anything away from Vrabel. Vrabel's a very good coach. I think Vrabel's biggest problem in Tennessee was his hiring of his coaching staff. I think Robert Kraft prevented that from being just a massive disaster in New England. He's got a better quarterback in Drake May, although Drake May didn't really do much. He's got a better quarterback than he ever had here. But you can't tell me Mike Vrabel is not the luckiest coach, that this season and their path to the Super Bowl is not the luckiest path you have ever seen. That game should have been 10-0. They scored 10 points for the game. That game should have been 10-0. Jarrett Stidham got spooked and gave them 7 points. If it's 10-0, I think Stidham starts eating the ball because you can have the conversation with Stidham at 10-0. Run, punt. Run, punt. Run, punt. Punting up 10-0 is your friend. And let's make Drake May beat us. And if they had gone to the locker room up 10-0 or up 10-3, and now Drake May has to score a touchdown and beat them in that blizzard, it's not going to happen. And I can't believe that Sean Payton did not look at the weather report and think to himself, I got a backup quarterback in there. I've got a top 5 defense in the league. Drake May hasn't done anything. Let's kick the field goal and go up 10-0. Unbelievable run of luck for Vrabel. He's a good coach. I still think he's overrated. And I still think that them getting to the Super Bowl, again, because of decisions made for Vrabel, like Robert Kraft making the Josh McDaniels decision, or this path they've had to get there, I think, again, is really more a sign of Vrabel's luck than it is about how great of a coach Vrabel is. But the one thing Vrabel did in these playoffs that these other coaches couldn't do, whether it's DeMeco Ryans, who was afraid to hurt his quarterback's feelings, or whether it was Sean Payton, who was just feeling himself on the sideline today, Vrabel's team did not make the mistake to fuck themselves out of winning a game. Vrabel's team didn't make the mistake that number 27 made today for the Seahawks when he ran over to the coaching box and got called for taunting on 4th down. Vrabel's team didn't muff a punt. Vrabel's team went out there and played complementary football based on who they were playing and the weather conditions in all 3 of their playoff games. That is where Vrabel is a good coach. But the path that they took, crazy. Just crazy. But you got to give Mike Vrabel credit. And I do think that I have to, even myself reflect on, okay, I liked the Robinson-Vrabel combo. And I feel like with a more involved, stronger owner, like Robert Kraft, I think that it is probably likely that with a stronger, more involved owner, that whatever differences Robinson and Vrabel had, the owner could have worked those out. That the owner, again, with a stronger owner, a more involved owner, would have pushed back on Mike Vrabel and would have set the tone with Vrabel so that Vrabel wouldn't have felt like he could have said what he said at that Patriots Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Amy can't do that. But my biggest issue with Vrabel and giving him what he wanted, which was total control of the franchise, was that I didn't think Vrabel had earned it. I didn't think that he could do personnel. And the Patriots this year, with Vrabel running personnel, are in the Super Bowl. So I have to reflect on that. I have to look back and think, wow, maybe I was wrong about that. And I think it's a discussion worth having. And I'm not going to lie to you. A lot of people on Twitter that were not Titan fans, local media, they were like, the Titan fans must be kicking themselves. They're not kicking themselves. They're kicking the owner. But I think about what it must be like to be Amy. Mike Vrabel's in the Super Bowl, and you just hired a 20-36 coach who can't hire an offensive coordinator, and we don't totally know why he hasn't been introduced yet as head coach. That's got to hurt. Like, the hopes of Titan fans is that Robert Saleh, 20-36, busted with Zach Wilson's going to be a good coach. That's depressing. But congratulations to Vrabel. And I think if Vrabel can keep his ass out of the way with Josh McDaniels and Drake May, I don't care if he hates Josh McDaniels, and he probably does. If he can stay out of the way of McDaniels and May, they're going to win a Super Bowl there. They may not win the Super Bowl this week because I think that, and I don't know what the line is or if it's come out, or I think Seattle should be favored to win the Super Bowl, and I think Seattle probably will win the Super Bowl. But Drake May is going to win one, which is crazy. Nathan says, how many times does Stilly have to be right? Again, you people with the, it is funny. I had somebody call my phone the day after Vrabel got fired. And this person was like, you will see. Mike Vrabel was holding Rand Carthon back. Rand Carthon had to do things to try to convince Mike Vrabel that they were his idea because Rand was so smart that he was trying to convince Vrabel that Rand's ideas were Vrabel's ideas so that Vrabel would go along with it. And now Rand won't be held back by that. And Rand Carthon's one of the biggest morons in maybe NFL history. I also hope that at least Rand can admit the ball did bounce Mike Vrabel's way today. Just crazy. Just unbelievable. TDG's mad because I said Sam Darnold will be better than Campbell ever be. I think Sam Darnold right now, and I said this before this season, I think Sam Darnold right now is better than Campbell ever be. I really believe that. Jude says, Jared, could you please read live on air Sam Darnold's rookie stats? I didn't want to sign a rookie Sam Darnold. If the Titans were to go out in free agency and sign Rashid Shaheed, who is somebody that I would support them signing. I mean, I wouldn't look at it and say, well, he was undrafted coming out of college, so he must not be very good. No, I'm talking about the evidence we have right now. In March of this year, when the Titans had to make a decision, I thought Sam Darnold was better in March of 2025 than I ever thought that Cam Ward was going to become. And then Cam Ward got drafted to the Titans, and he had a horrible rookie season, and everybody got fired. And now we're hoping that Robert Saleh, 20-36 Robert Saleh, can fix it. And he's already hurt, and he's worst team in the league. And Sam Darnold's in the Super Bowl. That's where we are today. I don't give a shit what Sam Darnold's rookie season stats were. Again, this is what you people do. You people sit back and you say, well, he could be John Elway. Well, there's nothing that says he'll be John Elway, but sure, he could be. I was looking at Sam Darnold and saying, Sam Darnold won 14 games last year. Do I ever think that Cam Ward will be good enough to win 14 games in the NFL? No, I don't. Jay says, if you were the GM, Anthony Richardson would be here, not Sam Darnold. Not true. Because just like when the Colts signed Joe Flacco and they said we're going to have competition and they're going to, who do you think I would have signed? With the bridge quarterbacks that were out there last year, who do you think I would have signed? Because Anthony Richardson would have been my guy, but I would have signed a bridge quarterback. They decided to let Gardner Minshew go to the Raiders. They signed Joe Flacco. My bridge quarterback would have been Sam Darnold. And that's the truth about this, is that even the best guys are right 50% of the time. The question is, do you make a mistake like hiring Rand Carthon to be general manager, and then do you make it worse by promoting him and letting him pick a coach? Or do you realize that's a mistake, now let's go and try to fix it? Again, I think Minnesota made a mistake drafting J.J. McCarthy. But the real mistake they made was picking McCarthy over Sam Darnold when Sam Darnold won 14 games. Well, we drafted J.J., so I don't give a shit. McCarthy didn't play last year. Sam just won 14 games. Figure it out. This is a weak quarterback class. You mean to tell me you couldn't have traded you couldn't have traded McCarthy for the Jets' first-round pick this past year and signed Sam? Of course you could have. But Minnesota was high on their own supply. Josh says the Titans are just like the Jets. They just hired the Jets coach. By the way, I found a video on my phone. I was actually looking at old pictures. As I said, when I started this show, Lindsay and I, our Australian Shepherd passed away in September. And I was just looking at old pictures of our Australian Shepherd, and I was sending them to Lindsay, and there was a video. I don't know why it was on my phone, but there was a video from October 4th of 2024 where I was talking about how the Jets needed to fire Robert Saleh, and Robert Saleh was terrible. And I was like, I don't even know why this is on my phone, but holy crap. Now how do we feel about it? Unbelievable. Just crazy. Is anybody else getting a call from the Metro government right now, or is it just me? Because I got the text message from the Nashville Metro government about the warming shelters that they're going to have. 3 overnight warming shelters available. Fairgrounds, Expo, Windgrove, whatever. I hope that it's not like somebody from Metro calling me saying, hey, your house is melted away, or whatever you want to call it. So now we talk about the Super Bowl. The thing that I probably was most wrong about, the great Mike Vrabel, versus the thing that I was probably most right about, Sam Darnold, the Sam Chi's quarterback. I don't know what the line is. My gut tells me we watched the Super Bowl this evening. And that for the entire season, Seattle and the Rams were the 2 best teams. And it was a mano-a-mano. It was a heavyweight fight tonight. And Sam Darnold did his thing. Not that I expected Sam Darnold to carry them to the Super Bowl, which he did today. But I would have a hard time picking New England. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle blows them out. But crazy. Owsley says, Jared is 100% right. To think we could have had a legit quarterback and all those draft picks from trading back is sickening. You know, somebody tweeted me today and said, Sam Darnold has elevated the Vikings and he's playing great, but the Titans would have only won 2 or 3 more games with Sam Darnold. I'm like, get the fuck out of here. Again, Seattle didn't make the playoffs last year. They're in the Super Bowl this year. Minnesota won 14 games last year. They won 9 this year. So the net for Sam Darnold was 4.5 regular season wins. Seattle won 4 more games than they won last year. And Minnesota won 5 less. So it's 4.5. Then factor in the playoff wins. You don't think that he would have won more games for the Titans. You don't think you would have beaten the Saints with Tyler Shuck if you had Sam Darnold as your quarterback? Give me a break. Boy, Jonathan's all mad. You have shown no signs of being a Titans fan, just a Titan hater, even during the time that we were successful from 2019 to 2021. I picked the Titans to win the Super Bowl in 2021. In fact, when Evan McPherson made the field goal and it went right through the uprights of that divisional playoff game, I just left the stadium. I was at the game with 3 of my friends. I didn't even say goodbye. I just walked right out, stopped by my favorite spot on the way home, which also happens to be Mike Vrabel's favorite spot. I got a buffalo chicken wrap. I got sweet potato fries. I had a cocktail. I don't drink very often. And I watched the Green Bay Packers piss their number 1 seed away too. I can tell you all about my Titan fandom. I can tell you about the fact that I was in Orlando at my cousin's wedding when Drew Bennett dropped the ball against the New England Patriots. I can tell you that I remember when John Simon and Robert Holcomb fumbled the football against the Raiders in the AFC Championship game. And of course, my first ever heartbreak, the Baltimore Ravens game in 2000. You say I'm not a Titan fan, but I can tell you everything about the team. So I'd like to think I'm a Titan fan. I'm just a realist. I just watched the Titans play Sunday Night Football in 2020 on the road at Green Bay, get absolutely blown out because they couldn't play defense. And I said, they're a pretender. They're not a contender. And they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Give me a break. Kurt says, maybe Titans fans understand that it's more about ownership and organization, but I have a feeling they will just say it was time for him to go. Do not throw your pearls before swine. I mean, again, I think that the organization and ownership absolutely screwed the whole thing up. By the time it was time for Vrabel to be fired, it had gotten to a point, again, with the coaching staff and the fan base, where I didn't think Vrabel really could improve upon where he was. And that Vrabel would have lost more the next year and been fired. That's what I believe. Who knows if it's true or not? But to me, the mistake was firing J-Rob when they fired him. Now, if she wanted to fire J-Rob at the end of the year, that would have been a controversial decision, and she would have had to hire somebody better. But at least that would have been something that makes a little bit of sense. When she fired J-Rob, I thought, oh no, this is what the dumb teams do. And then hiring Rand Carthon was just a total disgrace. And the fact that Amy was not the problem with Amy is that Amy doesn't spend any time in the building. So she doesn't know who's smart and who's not. That's why Amy promotes Chad Brinker, because she thinks he's smart, but she doesn't know. She's not there. That's why Amy promoted Mike Borgonzi. That's why Amy got talked into Robert Saleh. Amy's listening to her son-in-law, who doesn't know if the football is pumped or stuffed, Burke Nihill, who's a lawyer, and I don't even know who in football she listens to. According to the original report, she doesn't even listen to her general manager when it comes to who to hire as coach. That's the problem. One person says, I think 95% of you have no clue about football and should never offer an opinion again. This comment section is such a joke. Again, I may put out a poll on Twitter at some point. Who do you think's going to be better? Do you think Cam Ward is ever going to be as good as Sam Darnold is right now? And some of you people actually think that. Like this guy. Cam is good. We just need to get him a little more help. I mean, I don't disagree with the fact that you need to get him a little more help. But the idea that Cam Ward had some great season or proved something this year is just ridiculous. The Titans can be good with Amy. Do y'all even listen to Stilly when he speaks? Again, here's what I want to know. Tomorrow, and again, I'll be out of pocket all week until Friday. Probably do a show Saturday, although I'm going to be on XM next Saturday, so who knows. And then we'll be at the Super Bowl all next week. Ask your local scribes. PK, he does the football show with Braden tomorrow here on the 440 Sports Network. Ask PK, because PK kind of alluded to this on his podcast. Ask him where Robert Saleh was this weekend. I don't know where Robert Saleh was. I'm not going to report and say what it. Ask PK, though. He knows everything. Just ask him. Ask him what Robert Saleh was doing this weekend. I do enjoy doing that. Oh, man. Jonathan says, Vrabel will ride the coattails of Drake May like Belichick rode the coattails of Brady. Well, Belichick will be in the Hall of Fame next year, so make of that what you will. By the way, I will say this, and I think this needs to be discussed. The way that they vote owners in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame is a little silly. Like, you can only vote in one owner a year, but it's part of a contributor. So, for instance, Rune Ardeledge, the man that founded Monday Night Football, he has to be one of the ones to be lucky enough to get into the Hall of Fame. And that's why Bud Adams, who co-founded the AFL and gave Joe Namath to the Jets so the AFL would survive and help the AFL merge with the NFL so that we have the game we have today. He can't get into the Hall of Fame, which I think is fucking ridiculous. Robert Kraft, in my opinion, earned his Hall of Fame bust today. Because, first of all, Robert Kraft should already be in the Hall of Fame. The guy won 6 Super Bowls as an owner. He traded for Belichick. He accepted the decision to go with Brady over Bledsoe. That's enough, in my opinion, to put the guy in Canton. But the fact that they rebuilt the team, he hired the coach. He clearly scouted out the coach because he knew what his biggest weakness was when that coach took that job, and he put in the offensive coordinator, not Vrabel. And now they're back in the Super Bowl. Robert Kraft 100% belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And the fact that he is not, and a guy like Jerry Jones, who hasn't won a meaningful playoff game in 30 years, is in the Hall of Fame, is a travesty. With all due respect to Bill Cowher, who was a good coach, Bill Cowher is not more important to the game of football than Robert Kraft. Bill Cowher does not have anywhere near Robert Kraft's resume, and he's in the Hall of Fame. It's a joke. Robert Kraft belongs in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I think today sealed the deal, and I don't care what the rules are. They need to put Robert Kraft in this year because who knows how many years Robert has left. I hope it's a lot, but who knows? That guy needs to be put in the Pro Football Hall of Fame and should enjoy his moment that he as an owner has earned. Just like to say that on my soapbox. The great Mike Vrabel. Yeah, you got to give the national media credit. They treated Mike Vrabel like he was so great, and oh my God, you'll see. And fuck, he's in the Super Bowl. So you got to give Mike Vrabel his due. Person said it's more of a shit on the Titans than a win on anyone else. I sent out a text or a tweet as a joke earlier today, and I said, you know, Amy is likely to fly off the handle with Vrabel making it to the Super Bowl. That Robert Saleh better watch his back. He's already on the hot seat now. I hope he has a good press conference on Wednesday, or else Amy might go Leroy Jenkins again. And as she goes Leroy Jenkins, fire the coach. I'm kidding about that, but at this point, I'm not sure I'd put it past her. The Sam Chais. I actually know some people that work with Sam. And earlier in the year, I said, if you guys start selling T-shirts that say Sam Chais quarterback, I am going to want a cut of that. I should make some T-shirts. Sam Chais quarterback. One person says, Saleh was a pathetic hire. Yes, he will. Our defense will be better, but he is awful and with adjustments and is going to get outcoached constantly as a head coach. What a bad year for Amy Adams Strunk. They unretired Warren Moon's number. The entitlement is disgusting. Unretiring numbers of rookies who haven't done anything. Going on vacation 5 minutes after getting hired. I don't know who I'm talking about when I say that, by the way. Guys, I don't think I'll be doing a show tomorrow. I will be out of pocket this upcoming week. There are just some things in life that you just can't, that just take priority. And I love this show, and I love everybody who supports it, and I cannot wait to be back at the Super Bowl. I don't think my old station is sending anybody to the Super Bowl, because the truth is, when I would do the show from the Super Bowl the last 3 years, that was me who was paying for us to be out there at the Super Bowl, paying for me to be out there at the Super Bowl, because I thought that content was so important. And so I took myself to the Super Bowl. In fact, one year, the first year, I went out there, I flew myself out there, I stayed with my friend, and I did everything myself. And then they sold a sponsorship to it. So they made money off of our Super Bowl coverage, and I paid for everything. So I don't think they're going to send anybody to the Super Bowl. Again, that's their choice. But I will be here. 440 Sports. Again, like and subscribe. Braden will be at the Senior Bowl. So if you're missing your Stillman and Company fix, watch the football shows with Braden. They're going to have a lot of great breakdowns and stuff like that. I want to thank Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. We've done a bunch of shows this week because I was kind of preparing for the reality that we were going to be off this upcoming week. And I guess what? We'll see you from the Stillman Bowl. The great Mike Vrabel, the thing I might have been the most wrong about, and Sam Darnold, the thing that I was most right about. Stillman and Company. We'll see you all from the Super Bowl coming soon. Take care.